Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Liverpool. It finished Liverpool 4, Southampton 0 at Anfield. It was a kind of one of those crisp kind of February afternoons that turned into a bit of a drizzly one, but it was not drizzly whatsoever in terms of Liverpool's performance on the pitch. It was yet another win that extends our lead at the top of the table to 22 points before Manchester City play Tottenham tomorrow. It was another important step in this kind of ladder we're just climbing now towards the end of the season. It was a game of, there's that kind of saying of a game of two halves. It was very, very much a game like that. Earlier in the season, when we played Southampton down at St Mary's, that was kind of before their kind of poor form started, and we kind of struggled really then as well. And it took a really good Sadio Mane goal to really kind of open up the game really, and give us a chance. And then we went on to score a second one with Roberto Firmino, and it was very much the same here. In the first half, we kind of, obviously Southampton were going to sit back. I think we just accept now that a lot of the lower teams play like that against us, and even some of the bigger teams will choose to play like that against us because of our threats, particularly up front. And we kind of toyed around a bit. We didn't make any really great chances. There was a chance that maybe Van Dijk had, and it was a great save from Alex McCarthy, the keeper. But yeah, we didn't create too many chances. I think we were just kind of poking and prodding. I don't think at the beginning of the game we were maybe 100% sure how they were going to play. So I think they lined up with James Ward-Prowse on like the right back position, and I don't think we figured out whether he'd be playing like a right wing back or right back. He ended up traditionally playing like a right back role, yeah. So I think maybe it took us a little bit of time to adjust to that. I think one of the things that also maybe came into it is a bit of fatigue. Obviously, with the West Ham game only a couple of days ago, and Southampton having a week since their FA Cup game against Tottenham, maybe that had a part to play well. But we didn't really create too many chances. And actually, as the half went on, once Southampton kind of got over that initial, we can't concede in the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, they actually started to grow into the game. They actually created quite a few chances for themselves in the first half, and Alisson making a couple of saves, looking a little bit dodgy sometimes, but also some very, very good defending by Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez. And I really want to a little later on this episode really kind of focus in on Joe Gomez, because he's been really, really solid. And I was watching a programme earlier today around England's best centre backs, so I want to get into that a little later on. But before we get into that, at half-time, we probably went in. Southampton were probably the happier team going in. We didn't really cause too many problems. It was actually quite similar to the West Ham game, actually, where other than that chance where we got the penalty, we didn't really create too much in the first half against West Ham. But yeah, I think at half-time, I think Southampton and Ralph Hasenhüttl would have been the more positive or the happier manager. But the second half changed within the first 4 or 5 minutes, and that's exactly what we needed. Otherwise, it could have been a tough second half. And maybe last season or the season before, we wouldn't have probably scored that goal as early, and the game would have been a bit tense as it went on. But Liverpool are doing a great favour for their fans this season. The amount of tense games that we've put up with over the last 10 years. This season is the season where we kind of get that goal relatively early, and so we're not worrying about everything come the 80th minute. Yes, we've had a couple of those games, but games like the West Ham game, games like this game against Southampton game, getting that goal, particularly early in the second half, really just set up the rest of the second half and essentially gave us the win in the end. And it was a fantastic bit of play by Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, getting the ball from Firmino on kind of the inside left of the box, and then kind of maybe giving McCarthy the eyes, making him think he's going to shape it into the far right, and actually just closing his foot on it and getting the ball into the near post. It was actually really, really funny, because that is actually an almost identical position to which Sadio Mane scored in the first game, or in the reverse leg out St Mary's earlier this season. But this time Oxlade-Chamberlain closed his foot on the ball, and maybe McCarthy had that in his mind from that game, I'm not sure. But it was a great finish by Oxlade-Chamberlain. And just touching on Oxlade-Chamberlain before we kind of just discuss the rest of the goals, I think this game and the West Ham games were a real example, to me at least, and to the fans and to the Premier League, about how a squad can win you the Premier League. Obviously we haven't won it yet, but how a good squad can help you in the Premier League. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has 2-2 now. He went through a bit of period around kind of January, December, where he got a little bit frustrated after he initially had a great burst when he came back from injury. But his 2 goals, his 2-2 now, the second goal to kill off West Ham and the opening goal here were really crucial to killing both games off, essentially. And he's someone that, maybe at the start of the season, obviously because of his injuries, you wouldn't even have had him in our kind of best 11. But it shows how important someone you can come in, pick it up straight away, pick up the pace, the tempo, the way we play, and still be so important and crucial for us in all of our games. But yeah, that goal, I think maybe Southampton were just patting themselves on the back a little bit too much after the first half and just switched off for those couple of minutes. We went ahead. And then after that, I think their heads maybe dropped a little bit. I think whilst it was still 1-0, I think they were kind of still in it and they maybe believed that they could possibly nick a draw because they did actually have quite a few chances. Danny Ings and Shane Long did get in behind our defence quite a few times actually, but our defenders were able to recover. But the second goal kind of was I'd say a little bit fortunate in that obviously Jordan Henderson was way offside closing down the goalkeeper. Trent's ball, although it was a great pass, I'm not sure he kind of meant it or it meant to go there or whatever. But the ball was played to Firmino down the left-hand side of the box, and he was able to cut it back to Jordan Henderson. The defender slipped in front of him, so it was just really, really easy for Jordan Henderson to just slot the ball past the keeper. And I think maybe it was after this point, after the 2-0 point, that some of the Southampton heads started to drop. And I think this is kind of maybe where they thought, we tried, but unfortunately it wasn't for us. And the third goal was Mo Salah's first of the game, and it was a fantastic little ball down the line, and with his deft finishing was able to just touch the ball and lift the ball over Alex McCarthy, at 3-0 the game was wrapped up, and it was very obvious after that third goal that we were looking to turn on the style a little bit. Firmino with his little tricks and little flicks. He was coming into his own. Mo Salah was making runs, and Minamino probably should have got his first Premier League goal, but him and Keita, I think, got a little bit too close to each other, and what was pretty much an open goal, he managed to sky over the bar, so that was unfortunate. It would have been great to see Minamino get his first Premier League goal, but nevertheless, a 4-0 home win, definitely a game of two halves, but that Oxlade-Chamberlain goal, I think for me was really, really crucial in kind of just setting up the rest of that game and the rest of the second half. Another fantastic win, and the streak continues. I think there's 20 Premier League games we've won at home now consecutively, which is a fantastic stat. I think that equals Manchester City's record. And based on the next couple of games we have, it's very likely that we'll probably go on to beat that record as well. But I just want to come back to what I was speaking about earlier in terms of Joe Gomez. Ever since he kind of came into the team I think Matip, so he started out the season, he didn't really, maybe he was a bit tired, or maybe he didn't have the right preparation at the beginning of the season. He just wasn't kind of in the right form. And so Matip came in, and then Matip did really well, and then he got injured, and then Lovren came in, and so Joe Gomez was kind of like slipping down the pecking order. But then at kind of like November-ish time, Dejan Lovren got injured, and Joe Gomez was our only other fit centre-back. And I think at that point he thought, you know what, I've had maybe not the best start to the season, but this is my chance to prove myself and make it really, really difficult for the other two centre-backs to get back into the team when they are fit. And that is exactly what he's done. You couldn't ask for more or better from Joe Gomez. Like all throughout the December fixtures, the Club World Cup, where he actually played in all of the games in the Club World Cup, because I think Van Dijk was rested and Henderson played in the centre-back position. But he's just been absolutely immense. Like I think, obviously, and I think it's well known now that players they are just better when they're around Van Dijk. He kind of, as any great leader does, when you're around a great leader, everyone elevates their game, and I think that's very much the case with him. But there was an interesting discussion I was kind of watching around whether he is England's best centre-back, and you look at some of the options, right? So it's John Stones, who's been in and out of form. Pep doesn't really, I think it's very obvious right now, he doesn't really rate him. And he's been very hot and cold for England when he's played. Harry Maguire, who obviously had a really, really good World Cup, but since his transfer to United, he's kind of seemed to be on a downward trajectory also. He hasn't looked himself in a long while, and I don't think he will be I just don't think he's the player that he was when he was at Leicester, and maybe the move from Man United was a bad decision for him. And so you think, other than that, maybe Carl Walker can play centre back. You've got maybe James Tarkowski, but again, he plays at Burnley, who haven't had the best season this season either. I may be missing some England centre backs. None really spring to mind other than those two at the moment, but I think you would be very silly to say right now there is a better centre back, English centre back, than Joe Gomez. He is. You look at our stats from, I think it's been like the last 9 or 10 games. The only goal we've conceded is the Raul Jimenez header, right? So one goal conceded in probably arguably the toughest part of the season is no mean feat at all. And he's just been absolutely mega, and he's gone levels up now. He's gone levels up. He's still only 22, and it's also really rare to find young good centre backs. You often get one or two. But they often get better, when they're maybe 25 and older, when they're kind of a bit more developed and stuff like that. And so to see a young centre back doing so well in the best league in the world is really good for us, and actually then good for England as well. And I think Gareth Southgate will have no chance, or no choice actually, but to pick Joe Gomez in his friendly games, and then going into the Euros as well. I think it would be stupid to pick John Stones and Harry Maguire. I think that partnership has shown that it doesn't work. When we get to the highest level, and yes, Joe Gomez plays better next to Virgil van Dijk, but you're taking away a lot of Joe Gomez's qualities by saying he's only good next to Virgil van Dijk. He's a quality defender, and he showed that in his one-on-one defending, and when he's kind of not around Van Dijk as well. So for me, he's England's best centre-back, and I can't wait to see him in the Euros playing for England. But obviously now, next up for us is the new winter break that has been introduced. So we will be going kind of a week and a half without a Liverpool game. Obviously, we do have the FA Cup replay, which the much controversial FA Cup replay in which our under-23 side will be playing. I think Klopp's confirmed that a couple of players, so Curtis Jones, Pedro Chiluvera, and Harvey Elliott, I think will all be playing in that game. Or will be available to Neil Critchley for that game. So that should be an interesting game against Shrewsbury. It's not on TV, which is interesting. One of the very few games of Liverpool that is not live televised this season. Every broadcaster wants a bit of Liverpool this season. But yeah, so the winter break should be very interesting. And I think how we come out of it will be interesting. Obviously, at the moment, we're in this kind of run and mentality and intensity that is just it's infectious, and maybe the winter break will be really good to kind of just tone it down a bit, get ourselves composed to go again, or maybe we may lose a bit of that momentum possibly. Obviously, I'm hoping it's the former, and that we just give ourselves a chance to relax a bit, mentally prepare and reset for the Champions League and beyond, and the kind of close out of the Premier League. But I'm kind of glad that the players are getting a break. It gives me a break as well from doing these episodes as well, just for a week or so. But it was another positive result against Southampton. The train goes on, 22 points clear. Couldn't ask for more as a Liverpool fan on the 1st of February. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of the Southampton game and what you think the Liverpool players should do during the winter break. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next episode.